Hello, friends in Zen. I've been asked about drug nirvana, drug-induced nirvana. Can you realize enlightenment through taking substances, medicines, teacher plants, plain old pharmaceuticals? My name's Daizan, and I'm from a practice community called Zenways. We have quite an online presence, and at the moment, with this virus situation, we're practicing together exclusively online. You can find out how to join with us if you're interested at our website, zenways.org. We also have Instagram, Zenways, Facebook, all the normal things. So, we have a very intensive retreat process, a 64-hour retreat, which is focused on helping people find a first taste of nirvana. That's it. That's its one and only purpose. And we have hundreds of people every year who do that. Now, as word has got out about this retreat, they've become very popular, and we've become, to some degree, on a sort of a circuit. There's a certain type of person that we're seeing quite a lot of who they're doing their 2 weeks in the jungle in South America, taking ayahuasca. They're going to, peyote ceremonies or magic mushrooms. They're interested in psychedelics research. And they're interested in consciousness, and this kind of work that this retreat involves seems to be quite appealing. So I'm getting more and more questions about how these two dimensions interrelate. More than that, there's quite an eminent Buddhist, or possibly post-Buddhist, writer who, I'm not going to mention their name, but they spent some time as Buddhist monk in a couple of traditions, written some quite well-established books, quite highly regarded books, and now later on in life started taking drugs and putting out a claim that they've actually experienced nirvana through psychedelics. And I believe I haven't seen it, but the last book this person wrote, they wrote it out as a book, and then they randomly mixed up all the chapters. So the book is published without a sort of a linearity. It's got a random hodgepodge of chapters through it. So this is obviously quite a live kind of area. So there's actually quite a lot to think about here and to talk about. We'll take it perhaps piece by piece. Now, first of all, the drugs that are available in the consciousness world, the psychedelic type drugs, seem to have, for many people, very powerful experiences, and with fairly long-lasting effects. I believe there's research around things like depression, helping to smooth out depressive episodes through these kind of things, dealing with certain traumas and so on. Now, experiences are very important, potentially life-changing. Ask anybody who's been through a car accident. Experiences are very powerfully influential in a human life. But experiences, it doesn't matter how sublime they are, how heart-opening they are, how consciousness-opening they are. Experiences are in the world of time. They have a duration. They come, they last, they go. They have to. That's their nature. We wouldn't be survivors the way we are as a species if our experiences continued forever. Okay, we simply wouldn't be able to function within the world. So when we're taking a drug which, has a sort of an onset, an actual duration, and then some kind of after effect, we're in that time-bound world. And as I say, there can be powerful and long-lasting effects. But this is a different world to what we find through the Buddha's teachings and through the teachings of nirvana and the ending of suffering and so on. To my knowledge, and I've read reasonably widely, there's nowhere where the Buddha says, you're going to, when you cross this particular threshold in your practice, you're going to experience this. You're going to have, a kind of a heightened sense. Every leaf is going to be dancing in the wind in a new way. None of that stuff. He doesn't talk in those terms. He talks actually as he does frequently in other contexts, he talks in a negative sense. Probably the deepest stratum in the Buddha's teaching in terms of navigating this realm is talking about the fetters, talking about cutting the 10 fetters. So I've talked about this elsewhere, but just to very briefly go through it now, the first fetter, or the first level of enlightenment, if you like, involves cutting 3 fetters. Basically dealing with the sense of myself as a fixed, solid object, a thing, as it were. The worldview of me as a thing in a world of things. We literally see through that as the optical illusion it is. We also actually deal with doubt. There's just no doubt. It's just, we've got it. I often, again, possibly I'm repeating myself here, I often use the image that at a certain point you get it, that in your life you get it, that Father Christmas doesn't exist. And once you've got that, 7 years old, 8 years old, there's no doubt about it, you've got it. And there's not really any likelihood you're going to start believing in Father Christmas again at any point. Okay? It's yours. And then the third thing is you deal with the reliance on rites, rituals, and righteousness. The sense there's no magic, there's no ceremony, there's no even sense of morality that's going to give you this new world that you're stepping into. It's a matter of clarity of vision. Now, so that's our first sort of threshold, if you like, into the world of enlightenment. Nothing there about any particular experience. What happens when we do this is not an experience. There can be great spiritual exaltation. People sometimes cry, they dance about sometimes. That can happen, but that bit always wears off, That's time-bound. But the key, the essence, the core of it is not an experience, but a shift in the way we relate to all experiences. And that doesn't wear off. That's not time-bound. So it's different to this kind of drug-induced thing. Okay? And just to very quickly sketch out, so that's our first level of enlightenment. The Buddha detailed 4. The second level and the third level are about dealing with, we have 3 basic, what are called the 3 poisons in Buddhism: greed, hate, and delusion. In a very broad brush sense, the next level of enlightenment, we're diminishing greed and hate. Third level, we're completely eliminating greed and hate. And then the fourth level, we're eliminating delusion. Okay, so in very broad brush sort of sense, that's how we could view a very applicable model of how things develop. So nothing there about any particular experience, as I say. It's this shift in how you relate to experiences. Now, within China, and to some degree within Japan, there's been a tradition, and actually across the world, there's been almost like an underground culture for many centuries of what in the Western world we call alchemy. Now, it's hard to know exactly where this tradition has originated from. Possibly it's something that sprung up spontaneously in various places, but both in the Eastern world and the Western world, there's been a distinction between what in Japanese they would call gaitan, or external alchemy, and naitan, or internal alchemy. Now, gaitan, this external alchemy, in China's a very good example here. For many centuries, you had alchemists trying to produce a kind of an elixir of life, a kind of like a medicine or a drug or a concoction that would basically enable the consumer to become immortal, and would lead to great and exalted states of being and experience. And we have, quite a lot of records about this sort of thing. A lot of these concoctions involved fairly hefty doses of mercury, and there's quite a history of particularly Chinese emperors sponsoring alchemists, producing this stuff, and then pretty seriously shortening their lives. Now, on the way to shortening their lives, this poisoning process very possibly led to states, in certain cases, which seem to be exalted or blissful or certainly beyond the normal, very possibly. But by and large, it was a pretty surefire way to do yourself in. And then we have this internal alchemy, this naitan. Now, the promise of this internal alchemy is that you have what you need within you. You don't need an external agent. You don't need some kind of drug, some kind of potion in order to flourish, in order to actually come into what you're really here to do, to be your deepest and best. And to some degree, this naitan approach came into Zen. It's been fairly buried. There's been a sort of a hidden or underground tradition within Zen for many centuries, and this is a dimension of it. Now, this is very relevant to our society and culture for a very particular reason. For almost exactly 100 years now, we have been gradually increasing our, as a Western culture particularly, but now around the planet, we've been increasing our adherence really to consumerism. Consumerism is based around a sense of lack, a sense of I need more, I want more. So people are these days fairly commonly called consumers. Now, for many, many centuries, people weren't thought of primarily as consumers. That wasn't how we thought about society or how people are. These days, it's pretty much universal, and now pretty much worldwide. Go to China, go to Beijing, people are consuming their little tails off. Go to Russia, go anywhere pretty much you like around the planet, particularly in the major cities, and what you see is consumption on top of consumption, just extraordinary levels of consumption. That's all driven, has to be driven by a sense of lack, a sense of I don't have, a sense of I need, a sense of ultimately I'm not good enough. So we've all been very deeply, over this last 100 years, brainwashed into this sense of I'm not good enough, I lack. Now, in the sort of Buddhist scheme of things, this is what's called the hungry ghost mindset. A hungry ghost is depicted, certainly in Japan. I don't know, I've seen hungry ghosts from elsewhere, but the Japanese depiction is you've got a being with a big, fat, open, sort of hungry belly, enormous, distended, and a little thin neck. And so it's extraordinarily hard for this being to get that sense of satisfaction, of a full belly. Okay, I can't get no satisfaction. That's almost maybe the theme tune of our culture these days. So, when we are deeply immersed in this hungry ghost lifestyle, where do we actually find a genuine source of satisfaction? Where is that? Well, within Zen, and particularly within the Rinzai school of Zen, they actually take this hungry ghost mindset pretty seriously. In, I think, most schools of Buddhism in Japan, certainly I've encountered it in China as well, you get a hungry ghost ceremony once, twice a year, where there's a kind of an offering to beings who are in this state of want, this mindset of lack, of need, of hunger. In the Rinzai school in Japan, in the summer, pretty much approaching 6 months of the year, there's a hungry ghost ceremony every single day. Okay? It's a daily part of the schedule. Now, the key text for the hungry ghost ceremony is called in Japanese Kanro Mon. Mon means gate. Kanro means like a blissful nectar, or sometimes sweet dew, Kanro. Also means not dying, Kanro. Like the Sanskrit is Amrita, this nectar of immortality. The Greek is ambrosia. Ambrosia also means not dying, the food of the gods. When we can experience this food of the gods, this elixir, this nectar, we can find a source of satisfaction which is not based in needing more input, more consuming. We're in the world of Naitan, the world of inner alchemy. It's possible to find this. It's possible to, for the hungry ghost, to find satisfaction. Now, we did a whole practice period working with the specific meditation practices that are, and actually a whole bunch more, some external work as well, that are geared up to help you find this nectar, this blissful inner source of satisfaction that enable you to be able to step away from this hunger, from this lack of satisfaction. Now, these practices we put together in a course called Zen Deep Nourishment. Now, this material is not really suitable for beginners. So what I would recommend is, if this is an area that you're interested in, rather than try to find some gaitan, some external drug, potion, some external agent to shift your consciousness, take seriously the possibility that you have within something which is shifting of consciousness, and very transformative, very potentially very blissful, very beneficial in terms of psychological and physical well-being, as well as having a strong impact on the, if you like, spiritual dimension of your being. Look into that Zen Deep Nourishment material. Now, we offer it to people who've already taken that first step into the world of enlightenment. So, once you've seen through that optical illusion of me as a fixed self, this might well be a suitable next step in your practice. There's many ways to do that first step. Those retreats I mentioned is one. There's many others too. I hope this is useful material. And I hope this gives a little bit of a context about this question around drug nirvana.